Hello, America. Welcome to Jordan Klepper's Weekly Wrap-Up, the show where we take a whirlwind tour of the week's headlines because it's cheaper than an actual vacation and you don't have to pay for extra leg room. We're covering the big stories from January 3rd to January 10th, and let me tell you, it's been a busy start to the new year. Usually I like to ease into January with resolutions I won't keep, like swearing off late-night pizza and definitely not tweeting from the elliptical, but 2025 had other plans, folks. First up, we have a tough story out of New Orleans on January 1st. A vehicle ramming attack left 16 people dead and more than 30 injured. The suspect was killed in the incident. My heart goes out to the victims and their families. No joke there. It's a heartbreaking way to start the year, but if there's one thing we know about the people of New Orleans, it's that they're as resilient as they come. They've rebuilt from hurricanes, floods, and every bad idea Mardi Gras tourists have thrown at them. We're rooting for you, NOLA. Next, to the West Coast. Los Angeles, specifically, where a massive wildfire on January 7th destroyed thousands of structures, including large swaths of the iconic Sunset Boulevard. Over 100,000 people were forced to evacuate. You know it's serious when folks willingly get off the 405 and leave the city. Usually they're stuck in traffic so long they wouldn't move if their cars were on fire. But in all seriousness, folks, wildfires are no joke, especially in California. My thoughts go out to the families and businesses affected and to the firefighters who battled those flames around the clock. You are the real-life Avengers, minus the fancy suits and CGI. Thank you for your service. Let's hope by next week this has simmered down, and not just because I'm tired of hearing my Hollywood friends complain about the smell of smoke while sipping kale smoothies. And finally, on January 6th, President Biden announced a ban on new oil and gas drilling along most of the U.S. coastlines. That's right, folks. If you planned on spending your summer vacation with a brand new oil rig in your backyard, you're out of luck. Now, some people are calling this move a dramatic step towards battling climate change. Now, others are calling it a surefire way to lose your favorite gas station discount card. Personally, I'm thrilled to see a focus on renewables. My solar panels have been lonely, waiting for friends to join them in the fight against that scorching SoCal sun. Although I will miss the days of hearing drill, baby, drill. That was always a fun phrase to imagine in non-petroleum context, but I digress. Now for some rapid-fire headlines you might have missed this week. Economy. The stock market continues its roller coaster ride, reminding us that it's basically a theme park for rich people, except they don't have to wait in line. Sports. A bunch of football teams tried to get to the playoffs. Half the fans are cheering, the other half are just done with the season. Moving on. Pop culture Hollywood's award season is upon us. Celebrities pat each other on the back for a few weeks while the rest of us eat popcorn and judge their red carpet outfits. Well, that's our show for this week, folks. We covered some tough topics, but remember, staying informed is the first step in making a difference. And hey, at least you can feel better about your own problems when you see what's going on out there. I'm Jordan Klepper, and this has been your weekly wrap-up where the news is real, the commentary is a bit ridiculous, and the host is just trying to keep it together one headline at a time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tune in next week where we'll do our best to make sense of whatever 2025 throws our way. Stay curious, stay bold, and for the love of all that's holy, can someone please keep the chaos meter below 11 this year? Good evening, folks. Welcome to Klepper's Corner, where we dive into the week's wildest news and say, wow, humanity, really? This is what we're doing in 2025? Let's start with some headlines that made us laugh, cry, and immediately Google, is this satire? Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Headline number one, AI robot wins bake-off, demands unionization. Yep, 2025 started with robots not only beating us at chess and Jeopardy, but also at Grandma's secret pie recipe. And now they're demanding benefits. I'm just saying, if I have to negotiate health insurance with my toaster, I'm out. I'll start living off Pop-Tarts. Oh, wait, those are next on the AI's takeover list, Pop-Tart artisan robots. Coming soon to a farmer's market near you. Headline number two, Florida man arrested after attempting to ride an alligator to a McDonald's drive-thru. Florida, the gift that keeps on giving. I have questions. Did the alligator consent? Was he getting a Happy Meal or just a McFlurry? And did they actually serve him? Because if the McDonald's ice cream machine was working, that would be the real story. Headline number three, Elon Musk declares Mars the new Las Vegas, announces first alien Elvis impersonator. Thank you very much, Earthlings. And yes, the aliens are already better at Elvis than your Uncle Jerry at karaoke night. But hey, if Elon's plan is to colonize Mars with Vegas showgirls and UFO-themed wedding chapels, I say let's go. Just make sure SpaceX's rockets don't end up as fiery divorce settlements. Headline number 4, man invents floating couch for dolphins. J.D. Vance approves. J.D. Vance is back, folks, and this time he's endorsing aquatic furniture. Now, I don't know who this inventor is, but they clearly get dolphins. Finally, the dolphins said, a couch we can flop on after a long day of flipping in the ocean. And J.D., we know you're jealous. It's okay, just don't try to float one of your hillbilly elegy couches down the Ohio River. Headline number 5, local mayor loses re-election due to TikTok dance challenge scandal. Politics in 2025, you don't lose because of corruption or bad policy. No, you lose because your renegade dance didn't go viral. Honestly, I feel bad for the mayor. He tried his best, but when the kids say he's giving major cringe vibes, your career's over. It's democracy, but with Fortnite moves. But headline number 6, pigeon wearing tiny backpack arrested for smuggling drugs. This is Breaking Bad Avian Edition. Picture a pigeon landing in a prison yard like Cuckoo Who's Got the Cash. The only thing better would be a hawk playing the DEA agent. It's nature's version of Narcos, and seriously, someone get this pigeon a Netflix deal. So there you have it, folks. 2025 is off to a bizarre, hilarious start. Remember, if you see a robot chef, a couch-riding dolphin, or a TikTok dancing mayor, don't panic. Just laugh, shake your head, and whisper to yourself, we've peaked as a species. See you next week. Hello, America, and welcome back to Klepper's Corner Weekly Wrap-Up, where we break down the big stories of the week because somebody has to, and the algorithms are too busy feeding you raccoon TikToks. Speaking of TikTok, let's start there, shall we? Story 1, Supreme Court upholds TikTok ultimatum. TikTok has been given the ultimatum, sell or be banned. It's the kind of decision we usually reserve for our favorite reality shows, but now it's about a social media platform that might or might not be stealing your dance moves and your data. The Supreme Court ruled that forcing TikTok's parent company ByteDance to sell is totally constitutional, which has lawmakers on both sides of the aisle saying, finally, something we can agree on, making teenagers cry. And President-elect Trump, he's scrambling to save TikTok before Sunday's ban deadline. Trump saving TikTok is like a dog rescuing a squirrel. It's confusing, probably self-serving, and you can't look away. But hey, at least he's finally found a Chinese export he's willing to fight for. Story 2, appeals court rules against DACA protections. Next up, the U.S. Appeals Court decided to hit the pause button on President Biden's efforts to protect Dreamers under DACA. Dreamers, by the way, are young immigrants brought to the U.S. as kids, people who are as American as apple pie. Except they didn't choose to be here. Much like most of us didn't choose to eat that gas station sushi last Friday. This ruling leaves 537,000 dreamers wondering if their futures are about to be torn apart faster than the plot of any Netflix original series. And the kicker, incoming President-elect Trump says he might negotiate protections for dreamers, because nothing says I care like a maybe. Story 3, mental health parody rule faces legal challenge in health news. A trade group representing giant employers is suing to block a Biden-backed rule requiring health plans to provide equal coverage for mental health and physical conditions. Because apparently nothing says we value our employees like saying your broken leg is worth treating, but your depression, walk it off. The trade group's argument is that the rule is arbitrary and capricious. You know, the kind of language you'd expect from the people who think hosting mandatory pizza parties fixes burnout. Mental health advocates are furious. Meanwhile, the trade group claims this is about preserving affordable coverage. Translation, mental health care is expensive, and our yacht club memberships aren't going to pay for themselves. Story 4, LADWP and the Palisades fire over in Los Angeles. The Palisades fire is raging, and the LADWP is under scrutiny for whether its equipment sparked the blaze. Officials haven't reached a conclusion yet, but Moody's credit rating agency says, don't worry, the power company's finances will be just fine. Oh, good, because when I think of wildfires destroying homes and habitats, my first thought is, what about the utilities' credit score? The investigation is ongoing, but LADWP's above-ground lines could become a thing of the past. That's right, buried power lines might save lives and prevent wildfires. Who knew? Well, literally everyone. Story 5. Trump's inauguration moved indoors. Finally, Trump's inauguration is heading indoors due to an Arctic blast sweeping through D.C. Temperatures are expected to hit the low 20s with wind chills in the single digits. Now, you'd think someone who's weathered as many lawsuits as Trump would be used to the chill, but no, he's moving the ceremony into the Capitol Rotunda for safety. This is a rare break in tradition, but Trump reassures us it'll still be a very beautiful experience. And if you can't make it to D.C., don't worry, you can watch the inaugural parade indoors at Capital One Arena. You know, the perfect venue for history or a Wizards game. Of course, fewer people will attend the ceremony in person, and that's a real shame for Trump, who famously obsesses over crowd size. But don't worry, Sean Spicer's probably warming up his largest indoor crowd in history speech as we speak. And that's it for this week's wrap-up. We've got dreamers stuck in limbo, TikTokers doing one last viral dance before Sunday, and Trump trying to stay warm in the rotunda. Join me next time where we'll dive into more news, more nonsense, and maybe, just maybe, find a reason to smile through it all. Until then, I'm Jordan Klepper, and this is Klepper's Corner. Good night, America.
Klepper's Corner, weekly roundup, January 20th to January 25th, 2025. Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, where I sift through the rubble of the week's news so you don't have to. And this week, oh boy, it feels like the news dumpster fire has been doused with gasoline and set ablaze by a man wearing an ill-fitting MAGA hat. Let's dive in. Trump's inauguration, the return of the Teflon. Donald Trump, our new again president, was sworn in on January 20th. His inaugural address was a passionate appeal to make America great again, because apparently the first round didn't stick. The real fireworks, however, came after the ceremony when Trump signed a flurry of executive orders faster than Elon Musk tweets questionable memes. Among his first moves, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement because who needs clean air, and granting clemency to January 6th rioters. Yes, Enrique Tarrio and Stuart Rhodes are now free, possibly planning a coup 2.0 electric boogaloo. The Justice Department called it political favoritism, while Trump called it the art of the pardon. Immigration policies, ICE, baby. Trump's immigration policy reboot began with a bang, or should I say, a raid. ICE agents are now allowed back into schools and churches because nothing screams land of the free like arresting people during choir practice. And then there's his plan to end birthright citizenship, which has prompted legal challenges from 22 states. This might mark the first time lawyers are more overworked than Starbucks baristas. Violence in the West Bank, smoke screens, and settlers. Meanwhile, across the globe, Israeli settlers attacked Palestinian villages in the West Bank under military protection, leaving destruction and unrest in their wake. You know it's bad when even the Middle East says, hey, maybe cool it with the chaos. Markets rally while reality crumbles. In economic news, the stock market is up because Wall Street loves nothing more than political instability wrapped in a shiny new tax cut. Dow and NASDAQ rose, buoyed by optimism over cooling inflation and solid bank earnings. Yes, it seems the only people thriving right now are bankers and the makers of I Survived the Trump Years merch. Entertainment and WTF news. In lighter or stranger news, Dylan O'Brien landed a role in Sam Raimi's new horror thriller, Send Help. Ironic because Send Help is exactly what we're all screaming right now. And then there's Brian Johnson, the millionaire obsessed with anti-aging, who shared bizarre data about his and his son's nighttime erections. Folks, this is the internet's version of the no one asked for this, but here it is meme. So, what have we learned this week? Well, democracy is fragile, capitalism is resilient, and the internet is just plain weird. Stay tuned next week where I'll be asking the hard questions. Will Trump's next executive order involve golden toilets for everyone? Will Brian Johnson release a sequel called Data You Definitely Didn't Need to Know? And most importantly, can someone send Sam Raimi to Washington? Because we could use a real horror story right now. Until next time, this is Jordan Klepper reminding you the corner might be small, but the snark is endless.
Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, where we recap the week's biggest stories, give them a little spin, and send them off to wherever Sean Spicer went. Let's dive in. Political news, Trump's cabinet of, well, You know, the Senate confirmed two key members of Trump's administration this week, Sean Duffy as transportation secretary, because nothing says expert on infrastructure like a former reality TV star who once lived in a house with 7 strangers on MTV's The Real World. Scott Bessent as Treasury Secretary, a hedge fund guy, because when your job is to manage America's money, it makes perfect sense to hire someone whose previous job was betting against the economy. But hey, this is the same administration that once let Ben Carson run housing and urban development because he had once lived in a house. So I guess this checks out. Meanwhile, a federal judge temporarily halted Trump's plan to freeze federal grants and loans. Trump, of course, reacted the way he always does by furiously posting in all caps on whatever social media site he hasn't been banned from yet. Unfair, so mean, sad, I'm doing great things, but the deep state wants me to fail. Executive power, folks, it's like monopoly rules. If you land on free parking, you still get nothing. Second, international relations. Nobody wants these flights. The U.S. tried to deport people to Colombia, and Colombia essentially responded, LOL, nah. Then Mexico followed suit by refusing to accept a U.S. deportation flight. At this point, Trump's immigration policies are like a bad Tinder date. He keeps swiping right on deportation, but nobody wants to go home with him. Somewhere in Mar-a-Lago, Trump is pacing back and forth, ranting about how it used to be so easy to get rid of people. Maybe that's because back in the day, people wanted to leave America. 3, economic news. China's AI just wrecked Wall Street. Tech stocks took a nosedive this week because China has developed an AI system called DeepSeek, which sounds more like a James Bond villain than a stock market disruptor. But here we are. Investors panicked, selling off stocks like they were tickets to a Rudy Giuliani stand-up special. Meanwhile, AT&T reported strong fourth quarter profits because, let's be real, no matter how bad the economy gets, Americans will always need internet, cell service, and an endless supply of scam calls from the IRS. So fourth, disasters and safety. When everything goes wrong at once, Mahakumbh Festival tragedy. A stampede at India's Mahakumbh Festival resulted in 30 deaths. A tragic reminder that sometimes too many people in one place is a really bad idea, something that also applies to Florida during spring break. Mid-air collision in D.C., a Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines jet, which is just the kind of headline you never want to see. President Trump, of course, took this as an opportunity to blame former administrations for his current administration's problems. Folks, terrible safety standards. Obama did this. Maybe even crooked Hillary. Who knows? Meanwhile, actual aviation experts are like, sir, air traffic control has rules. These are not golf carts. You can't just point fingers at the last guy and expect planes to move around like pieces on a Monopoly board. 5, entertainment, streaming wins, and band breakups. Guru Randhawa hit 14 billion streams on YouTube. That's billion with a B. If each stream were $1, he could personally fund Twitter for 6 more months before Elon Musk bankrupts it again. Coin breaks up. Indie pop band COIN has officially disbanded, citing troubling behavior. Apparently, this was a shock to fans, but let's be honest, bands breaking up is as predictable as Kanye saying something weird on the internet. The only thing that truly never breaks up? The Rolling Stones. Scientists will discover the cure to aging, and somehow Mick Jagger will have already found it. 6, environmental concerns. Disaster insurance is just a scam. Now, experts are warning that climate change is making disaster insurance unaffordable, which is great news for insurance companies who are already famous for denying coverage. Oh, your house got hit by a hurricane? Not covered. A wildfire burned down your town? Not covered. A light breeze knocked over your mailbox. Sorry, that's pre-existing damage. At this point, the only disaster your insurance actually covers is paying for more insurance. 7, sports Arsenal fans are ready to riot over in English soccer. Arsenal fans are furious because the club did absolutely nothing in the January transfer window. They need strikers, they need midfielders, they need hope. Instead, Arsenal executives looked at the squad and said, yeah, we'll just ride this out. Arsenal fans now have 2 choices: accept mediocrity or storm the club headquarters with pitchforks. Odds on which will happen first? 50-50. Final thoughts? Another week of chaos. So, to recap Trump is appointing reality TV stars to run America. No country wants to take U.S. deportation flights. China's AI is coming for Wall Street's lunch. Disaster insurance is now just a suggestion. And Arsenal fans have officially hit write angry letters mode. Join us next time on Klepper's Corner, where we find out if Sean Duffy actually knows how traffic works, if AI can replace Congress. Spoiler, it's probably an upgrade, and if Trump will finally take responsibility for something. Spoiler, absolutely not. Until then, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, if your insurance company tells you everything's fine, just assume your house is already on fire. Klepper's Corner, February 8th, 2025 edition, job market meltdown, private sector panic. The economy, America's favorite roller coaster, but lately it seems we forgot to install seat belts. February 2025 has not been kind to the private sector, with thousands of jobs vanishing faster than a politician's principles. Some are even calling this a recession, though the official term from corporate America is unexpected market adjustments that make you feel poor. Hospitality and retail are taking it on the chin, thanks in part to national insurance hikes and business closures. The green energy sector alone has shed 77,000 jobs, ironic, given that just a few years ago, politicians swore it was the future of employment. Turns out the future is now, and it is unemployed. Meanwhile, professional services, construction, and leisure industries are following suit, with tens of thousands of jobs disappearing into the void, right alongside the hope of ever affording a house. Meanwhile, in a fascinating twist, public sector jobs are on the rise. That's right, the government is hiring while the private sector is firing. So if you ever dreamed of filling out TPS reports for a living, now's your time to shine. Trump's Pentagon power play over at the Pentagon. It's out with the old and in with the Fox News contributors. Pete Hegseth, the new Secretary of Defense, narrowly squeaked into office with a tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance. Hegseth has vowed to refocus the military on warrior culture rather than political distractions, which is a fancy way of saying get ready for some purges. There are already rumblings of lists being made of officers who supported diversity and inclusion programs. Looks like if you ever suggested hiring someone based on merit and not vibes, your military career might be in jeopardy. The immigration crisis, mass deportation, or mass distraction. In immigration news, the Trump administration is rolling out what they call the largest mass deportation in history. Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that policies of separating families and dismantling asylum laws are always a big hit in dystopian novels. Human rights groups are raising the alarm, noting that this crackdown is not just a legal gray area, but a human rights violation waiting to happen. Meanwhile, social media is ablaze, with half the country chanting, "Build the wall," while the other half tries to figure out if Canada will let them in. Climate chaos, the world is toast, literally. If you thought February would bring some relief from global warming, think again. 2025 has started with record-breaking temperatures, confirming that, yes, we are still on fire. January 2025 was officially the hottest on record, beating out 2024, which itself was the hottest year in human history. The trend is so alarming that even the La Niña cooling effect couldn't put a dent in it. Meanwhile, Antarctic sea ice is disappearing like your 401k, and scientists are waving their arms, screaming, hey, maybe we should do something. But don't worry, I'm sure another Super Bowl commercial about electric vehicles will fix everything. Tariff wars, Trump versus the world. In trade news, President Trump is slapping tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico, which is a bold strategy considering we need things from all three of those places. 10% tariff on Chinese imports, 25% on Canadian goods, and a whopping 25% on Mexican imports are expected to raise consumer prices faster than you can say America first. Canada and Mexico have already retaliated with counter tariffs because, of course, they have. And if history is any indicator, this will not bring jobs back so much as make everything more expensive. Super Bowl ads, the real MVPs. This year's Super Bowl ads featured an all-star lineup of nostalgia, humor, and big-budget celebrity cameos. Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal reunited for a When Harry Met Sally spoof. Post Malone and Peyton Manning partied for Bud Light. And Gordon Ramsay taught aliens to cook. If that last one doesn't sum up modern advertising, I don't know what does. Of course, brands shelled out $8 million for a 30-second spot, all to sell you overpriced beer and streaming services you forgot to cancel. Welcome to capitalism, folks. Asteroid findings, life in space, or just another rock? Finally, in science news, NASA has confirmed that the Bennu asteroid samples contain amino acids, nucleobases, and even water. In other words, the building blocks of life were just chilling in space this whole time. Scientists are geeking out over the implications, while conspiracy theorists are already claiming it's proof of aliens. Either way, it's good to know that if Earth becomes unlivable, which at this rate is looking pretty likely, at least we have proof that somewhere out there life might get a second chance. Final thoughts between economic downturns, Pentagon shakeups, and impending climate doom. This week has been a roller coaster. But hey, at least we got some fun Super Bowl commercials and space discoveries. See you next week, assuming the world doesn't spontaneously combust by then.